Tell me about the book, Americans Anonymous.
Yeah, the book is really about how we got here. I went through recovery when I was young in Hollywood, and once you are in a room full of people, regardless of class, race, religion, background, with everyone in there looking to have a better life, to find a connection to God or a higher power, something really changes inside. So for me, I've been encouraging people all over the country to start Americans Anonymous or freedom groups in their communities, in their counties. I think we have a unique opportunity right now that a lot of people met in the middle with, you know what, I might not agree with you on abortion and I might not agree with you on the border, but I certainly agree with you on freedom. And I agree with you on liberty. And I agree with you on that every person that's put on planet Earth should have the opportunity to live to their potential and their life, and every individual is unique.
Hey there, hot messes. Welcome to Success of a Hot Mess, where we celebrate the art of juggling life's chaos and coming out on top. I'm Stacey Isaacs, your host and resident rock star lawyer, dance mom, and survivor. We're going to dive into candid conversations about conquering challenges, embracing our unique selves, and finding success in the beautiful mess of it all. Good afternoon. Thank you for coming on Success of a Hot Mess podcast, brought to you by WorkInjuryRights.com. That is my law firm where we represent injured workers. Today, I have the pleasure of talking to Mel K, who is the dynamic host and creator of the Mel K Show, which is a platform dedicated to providing fact-based, crucial information on geopolitical events and domestic issues. Mel, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. Excited to be here.
Also an author with Simon & Schuster. Very, very impressive. We have a lot to unpack here. So let's start by, why don't you tell me what the Mel K Show is?
Okay. Well, basically, I spent 22 years in Hollywood, and I started out in journalism and then did that. And I was working on historical dramas based on real history, but making them fictional so that people could digest it. And I had been working on many different things, including got very in deep on child trafficking, especially in LA and around. And I was working in LA, and I started to see a lot of things in California in my business. And then COVID rolled around, and I had happened to have written probably 17 years ago a screenplay on Hannah Arendt and the book Eichmann in Jerusalem, The Banality of Evil, where I studied a lot of what happened in the 30s, 20s, 30s, and 40s in Germany. And as COVID was coming around, and then we had the lockdowns, I started to see a lot of things that I thought were very similar to what was going on in Germany before the Nazis took power. And basically on March 15th, 2020, they shut down New York City. We were locked down. I saw Bill Gates and Eric Schmidt come on TV with Cuomo and talk about reimagining New York during the 2 weeks to stop the spread. And I said, I got to do something. And I started the Mel K Show that week. And we grew really fast on YouTube to about 100,000 subscribers. I had a couple hundred videos. And I was very good friends with Dr. Zelenko. Dr. Z's passed away, but he was one of the first people. I think he had patient zero in Westchester during the early COVID. And he came out with a lot of things like quercetin and zinc and hydroxychloroquine and all these things that should be used as preparatory when you first feel like you're sick to stave it off and not end up in the hospital. And one day I woke up, my channel was canceled, terminated for medical misinformation. And I had to start over. Thank God I found Rumble, and I rebuilt my show. And ever since, I've just been looking into how history has been very deceptive, and the American people really don't know much about our own country and things that have happened over the years. And I believe that the American people deserve to know so that we can make a better, so we can start going towards a more perfect union in a more informed and enlightened and empowered way than we have allowed it to go off course in the last 100 years.
There's so much to unpack here. There's a lot. Okay, so you and I go way back to college, actually.
Yeah.
And if my memory serves me right, were you a dancer or an actress? It was...
Yeah, I mean, I was a dancer. So I was a dancer from very young. I started going up to New York around 16, 17 to audition and do other things, mainly in dance. And then I started to segue into comedy. And then I moved to New York when I was 19, and I started both comedy, a little acting, but really loved film and went into screenwriting pretty heavily and studied that and then studied that outside. And so it took me in that direction. But I always really loved history, and even when we were young, and that was always my favorite subject. And I didn't know how much of our history we were deceived about. So it kind of became my thing to kind of find things that we didn't really, as American citizens, that we weren't privy to because of the National Information Act and all these different things that were put in over years to hide from the public a lot of things that our government was doing. And basically, I segued into that from wanting to be on Broadway.
Amazing. So you feel that COVID was maybe the thing that really propelled you into this fact-finding sort of...
Yeah. I started doing the show, and I had on a bunch of frontline doctors, Simona Gold, Stella Emanuel, Dr. Malone, and I just really understood that, you know, I don't know if a lot of people know this, but the way that they got Jews into ghettos and then onto trains to quarantine camps was typhus. And it was a very similar model, scarily enough, to what we saw happen here during COVID with the papers and everything. So I guess after one show, I got invited to speak during the lockdowns in Times Square with RFK Jr. and a bunch of other great people. It was really the first big coming out, especially in New York. People weren't really fighting back. They weren't really questioning why we were dropping our Constitution and all of our rights overnight because we were told to. And so that was my first thing. And then I went on tour, Reawaken America Tour, Reopen America Tour with Kash Patel and General Flynn and Devin Nunes and a couple of the Trumps and a lot of other people. RFK was at a couple of the first ones. At that same time, I was also fighting with a lot of people and helping to get Sound of Freedom released because they didn't want to release it for 4 years. So I just kind of got pulled in a lot of directions that had to do with preserving our Constitution and our rights in America, and that people in our country weren't fully understanding that with everything that they were taking away a little bit more of our liberty. And in America, we really need to realize that liberty is the one thing that we can all stand behind, and liberty is also about self-determination and what you do with your family and your children. And I just saw it all being chipped away, and I know it was a long-term plan because I've been trying to expose the fraud that is the United Nations for a long time.
And this is all fact-finding research that you've personally done, right?
Yep, everything. And I have it all on, I give receipts because it's important. On the melkshow.com, I have a resource page, which you can go through all this stuff, because the great part about the globalist oligarch billionaires that have captured the world is that they put all their information out there. So if you're willing to read it, like I do this thing during the week at Davos, which is the World Economic Forum's yearly meeting where they plan their globalism for the world. Last year and this year, I do a 5-day with my friend Noor bin Laden, who's a journalist from Switzerland, and we kind of go through what they're talking about, what they're saying, because it's been very prescient over the years, from Event 201 to this day. I mean, everything has been kind of light shined on it and transparency that we've never seen before.
Tell me about the book, Americans Anonymous.
Americans Anonymous. The book is really about how we got here. So I went through recovery when I was young in Hollywood, and I saw something magical there. To me, you walk into a room full of people that have addiction of whatever kind, and they go there willingly because they realize that there's a problem, and the problem is them. And once you are in a room full of people, regardless of class, race, religion, background, with everyone in there looking to have a better life, to find a connection to God or a higher power, and to work with other people in fellowship, to live a better, more fruitful, more productive life and future, something really changes inside. So for me, I've been encouraging people all over the country to start Americans Anonymous or freedom groups in their communities, in their counties. I think we have a unique opportunity right now that a lot of people met in the middle with, you know what, I might not agree with you on abortion and I might not agree with you on the border, but I certainly agree with you on freedom. And I agree with you on liberty, and I agree with you on that every person that's put on planet Earth should have the opportunity to live to their potential and their life, and every individual is unique. And what I found is that we really did have. There is a depopulation agenda. There is a group of people that believe in capturing all natural resources on planet Earth. They meet every year in multiple conferences about regional control. So a lot of us look at America or nation states as, you know, that's our home country, whatever. Well, this group of people, I call them the Global Public-Private Partnership, and people can read about it on my resource page on my website because they call it that. And frankly, it's Americans Anonymous is about, you know, that we have dealers and pushers and all of this drug that has gotten the American people and the world, especially with social media, addicted to endless conflict and chaos. And it's become normalized, and that's where I try to decipher, you know, what happened here, what are our actual rights, what's the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, what's the Declaration of Independence, which I have all of them in the addendums at the end of the book. But it's really about solutions, because I believe every citizen in the United States of America can make a difference where they are, and they just are too busy, too run down. We've had this horrible debt slavery model that has captured a lot of our time, energy, effort, and labor. And it's time for the American people to look at this situation as very similar to when the founders wrote the Declaration of Independence. They had 27 grievances. I assure you, if anyone read the Declaration of Independence today, they'd have the exact same grievances, but not know who the enemy is. And so my book's about defining who the enemy is and what we can do about it.
What would you say to, you know, maybe family members or friends? I'm sure you have been met with some skepticism. If someone calls you a conspiracy theorist, I'm sure that's offensive.
Yeah, I mean, it happens a lot. It's not offensive. I actually take it as a compliment now, because us conspiracy theorists have been right about a lot of things. But, you know, it's the word conspiracy theory was created by the CIA to cover up the fraud that was the Warren Commission report, with the Warren Commission being many people who were involved, I believe, in the murder of JFK. And I do believe now also, because I have a lot of friends, one of my best friends is one of the only survivors of MK Ultra mind control and was sold to the CIA at 3 years old. And her husband now, or he passed away, but that saved her at 30, she was a fully MK Ultra spy that was going to Nicaragua and all kinds of stuff. And I learned a lot from her as to what really happened after the murder of JFK and the deep state takeover, but also that our government and, well, above our government, that they plan trauma events. And I know people think that this isn't real, false flags, but they are, and it's Operation Gladio, and there's many others. But these trauma events, which I believe COVID, or as I call it, the plandemic, was one of them, they are meant to shift the entire, basically, chessboard of the world to keep consolidating power in the hands of the very few. And now with technology, I don't know if people know about technocracy, but they should look it up. With technology, they're getting closer and closer. And a lot of this traces back to Kissinger, Brzezinski, the Crown, and Rockefeller right after World War II. So that's what I try to do on my show and in my book, is have people on to say, you know what, American people? You still have the power, because we have these documents that people think are just documents. But if we lived them and we knew them and we stood up for one another and we dug into the NGOs in our backyards that have, no bid contracts and anything having to do with sustainable development out of the UN, it's totally about surveillance. And if we start pulling them out, like these smart meters they're putting in your house, these lights on the streets, are they watching you? Are they surveillance? There's 180 million cameras in China. Americans Anonymous is about empowering people to know exactly what the plans are and how to fight back at them, because we can, but we also need community. We need to get back in touch with our friends and family. I believe pandemic was a trauma event as well, and it broke a lot of people's relationships apart. And frankly, we need to repair our relationships in order to fight together. Because this time, we're not just standing up for America and our freedom. If America gets on the digital public infrastructure that has been created by the World Economic Forum and the UN and the banks that run them, we'll never get out of it. It really is a very serious time for American citizens to take their privacy, their data, and what they are giving to the government very seriously. Because where we are right now, I believe our government is in a state of disarray, and it's up to the people to save this country.
So do you believe that these companies like Ancestry and 23andMe are just trying to get our DNA and all of our information?
Yeah, I do believe that, especially because, the people involved. But, we have to really understand our data is our data. And it is not, what was really disturbing that I covered during the lockdowns is when children went on remote learning, forced to go on remote learning. There were dossiers opened on all children, very similar to things that have happened. They're also collecting blood after children are born now and cataloging it. Nobody is stopping all of this invasive stuff. And now with all the executive orders about biotechnology and CRISPR technology and biosynthetic, I mean, we have to understand what happened with COVID has to end the proliferation of biological weapons. But if we don't even know that it's happening, we really can't say anything. And frankly, I also worked on a movie with General Flynn. And at the end, I just wanted people to say, not in our name. Not in the name of we the people of the United States. We don't want to throw over and have regime change wars that leave countries like they've left Libya. So all of these things are already basically, because China's not a communist country as we would understand from the past. It's a technocracy, which is worse. It is a totalitarian surveillance state that is run by technology and AI and algorithms. Well, we're pretty close to that if the American people don't stand up and say, no, you're not getting my kids' data, you're not getting my data, you don't get to know where I travel, what I do, unless you have a warrant and probable cause. So we really do have to get back to the rule of law first and foremost. And then we have to literally have neighborhood watch programs to dismantle anything in our local communities that is actually nefarious to the United States.
Do you think this new administration is going to help?
I hope so. I mean, I'm very good friends with a couple people in it, thank God. Kash Patel is an amazing, amazing person. Anything you're hearing about him is that is negative is nonsensical. My real thing is, though, I really got involved during Crossfire Hurricane and what happened then. Whether you like Trump or hate Trump, we should not have an intelligence community run by an outside source at that time, West Exec Advisors with Anthony Blinken, Avril Haines, obviously Obama. But you know what? It doesn't matter whether it was Obama or Trump or Biden or whoever. If the intelligence community is spying and tracking and tracing not just the president, but everyone in his cabinet to try to find crimes to remove them from office, and then puts together the entire Crossfire Hurricane was a fraud. I still believe Seth Rich is the person who handed over the DNC stuff to Julian Assange. But whatever the case may be, WikiLeaks really put a lot of stuff out there. To not charge Hillary Clinton was insane compared to what we've seen with Trump. What we need to do is really take a step back and put government back in its place and put the people back in power. And that comes in the states, but you have to make an effort to get involved, whether it's going to school board meetings, city council, looking at the contracts that your school or anyone else is taking. Who owns those contracts? Where's the data that your county or your town is collecting going to? I mean, there's a lot we can do, but if we don't do it, we're going to end up walking eyes wide open into a global digital public infrastructure. And at that point, the globalists win their agenda.
Well, it's a lot of information. It's fascinating. I suggest everybody orders your book, Americans Anonymous.
That's me, Americans Anonymous, Mel K.
By Mel K, and that's available
Everywhere books are sold, and my show, we were permanently banned for medical misinformation from YouTube, but we are on Rumble and a lot of other places. And I would love to have you on too, because I'd like to talk about, we the people have a lot we can do, and everyone has special gifts and abilities that they were born with, or things that they gave up along the way that they are interested in. There's so many things that could come of this, and I believe that our best days are ahead, but the next 6 months are going to be really rough, and it's really important for people to be discerning about where they're getting their information and what they're doing with it. So I'm really, really excited you had me on today to just kind of tell people, take back your country, take back your life, take back your money. We're all being looted and lied to, and frankly, honestly, we're all on the same team. If you're still playing the left and right, Republican and Democrat, you're being played. It is not that. It is we the people versus a very corrupt, very greedy system that can be dismantled, but not if we all don't push for it.
Well, thanks for bringing us the truth, Mel K, and we will be in touch. Thank you so much for coming on Success of a Hot Mess podcast. Have a great day.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Success of a Hot Mess. If you loved what you heard today, be sure to subscribe so you never miss a beat. And hey, sharing is caring. Share this podcast with your friends, family, and anyone who could use a dose of inspiration. Until next time, keep rocking those hot mess moments with style and grace. Cheers.